Support! Please give us a subscribe. Help us hit 500 by January 1st, 2020. Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the OGGM Adventures. And it looks like it's time for the OGGM to have a haircut. I am your grumpy guide to all things gaming, and we are at day 9 of RPG A Day 2020. And the word is light. Light. And I had a hard time with this one. I didn't know what I wanted to talk about. I'm still not sure. Because light is just, that's a hard one. What do you want to shed light on? How important is light? I mean, we talked about perception and light and shading and eyes yesterday, so I can't really repeat that. So what does light mean? Shining a light in the darkness, carrying that torch, being the hero, spreading information, working to make a better place, shedding a light. It's a hard one because it can mean a lot of different things, a lot of different people. A lot of different people have what their own interpretation is of light and goodness and kindness. And especially with the way the world is now and how things are falling apart so rapidly in the past 5-6 months, it's more important than ever for each and every one of us to try and be a light. What the fuck does that have to do with role playing in Dungeons and Dragons? Right? So let's shed a light on the role playing situation in the bizarre town I live in. Because I don't know a lot of people who can say that they will live within walking distance of five game stores, 5 stores that quantify themselves as game stores, collectible stores, anime store, video game store, comic book store, pop culture stores. 5. I live within walking distance of 5 stores, and I live in a town with like 5,000 people. Ventura is a small little beach town that's basically just an L with a couple side streets that have slowly spread out. It was big in the oil boom and the gold boom, but now it's really got nothing going for it. So how is it that this teeny little podunk California 101 beach town has five stores that basically do and carry the exact same thing, and yet the role-playing community in this town is almost non-existent? Now, we're a beach town, we're a vacation town. So yeah, that's partially one reason. We're definitely very low income. That's partially another reason. We don't have a major college, major sports team, anything major that would percolate gamers. So how is it that we have 5 stores all within walking distance of my house, and I don't even live in a good part of town? And it's not like I live downtown or anything. I just dinky little side street next to nothing. 5 game stores, what I can walk to within 20 minutes of leaving my house, and yet all of them basically doing and saying this exact same thing in some variation. 6 if you count the GameStop in the mall. So yeah, we have 6. And yet the entire 20 some odd years I've lived here, I've maybe met 100 role players. We tried to have a convention and it failed. And why is that? Why is it there's so many stores and yet so little gaming community? I mean, we've had definitely Magic, and we've had the other collectible card games. We guess somebody thinks we have a video game population, considering every one of those stores carries video games. 2 of them specializing in video games, all of them doing comic books in some form, all of them doing collectible card games in some form, all of them claiming they do role-playing in some form, and yet none of them actively supporting role-playing community. Now, before the COVID started, one of the stores started to do a monthly role-playing thing. And another one of the stores was trying to do a weekly role-playing thing, but they had a very, very, very weird, negative incestuous little thing going on, and we're not going to talk about them. The main focal point in this, of course, is the store that I most frequent. Um, and that has had an ongoing role-playing game night every Wednesday and Thursday for as long as I've lived here, 20 some odd years. And there's been a constant flux, and yet still so what led to this? What are the steps that led to this teeny little town able to barely support 5 stores that do the exact same, 6 stores that do the exact same thing? And that's just basically because whenever an employee from one store would get upset and quit, they would have this mentality that I'm going to put that store out of business. Fuck them for making me quit. Fuck them for firing me. Fuck them for catching me stealing from them. Fuck them for firing me because I was treating employees and other customers like shit. So store A would lose an employee. That employee would go off and decide, I'm going to open my own store. And then a few years later, store A and store B would be competing against each other. And again, you'd have the same situation where there were employees in store A and store B, and they were disenfranchised from store A or store B, usually for the same reason, because gamers notoriously do not get along well with the public and with each other. And we are not known for our social skills. And when you're in a retail store, especially a store that is so niche like a gaming store, you cannot be that guy. In fact, the best employee for a gaming store, gaming retail store, is probably somebody with very actual interest in gaming and comic books and whatever. So they don't geek out and they don't get all egotistical and self-centered and whatever. And the people who actually know how to work with the public and sell product, but don't give a fuck what the product is. It's a comic book, it's a television, it's a rutabaga. I don't care. My job is to sell it and make money and make you have a good time and not piss people off. So store A and store B would hire people that were into the hobby, but these people generally did not know how to get along with the public. So they would quit or be fired, at which point these employees again would go, well, fuck you, store A, fuck you, store B. I'm going to open a store and put you out of business. So they would spread out and somehow get money and open up their own store. So now we had 4 stores competing with each other. And this just keeps happening. And sooner or later, other stores started popping up in the other little towns around here: Oxnard, Camarillo, Thousand Oaks, Santa Barbara, and then Goleta. And then every few years, there would be a disenfranchised employee of one of those stores who would quit or get fired, usually for bad behavior, stealing from the store, or generally just being a horrible human being. And they would go off and then they would say, well, fuck you. I'm going to open up my own store to put you out of business, which is the wrong reason to open a store. You cannot run a gaming store if you think you're going to make a profit, and you cannot run a gaming store if your only point is to put another store out of business. Because you're just constantly angry and you're constantly competing and you're constantly working to motivate that anger to make this impossible thing happen. And maybe you're successful, but then you always have that reputation of being the angry store. And sooner or later, your customers aren't going to go there. They're going to go to a place where they feel like, oh, well, that guy's always angry, but I'm going to come here because that guy doesn't make me feel angry. And I can get the exact same product for cheaper or whatever, and blah, 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 blah. We all know how retail works. So store would fail, new store would open up, someone else would come in and see the opportunity, and some of the stores were very successful, some of the stores not so much. And yet it brings us to today, where we live in a teeny little town with 6 stores basically doing the exact same thing, all because they are permutations of this continuing cycle of fuck you for firing me because I was stealing from you. I'm going to open my own store to try and put you out of business. That needs to stop, especially with COVID-19. strangely enough, there is a military base in the town next door, Point Waimi Naval Base, where the Seabees are stationed. At no point in the 20 some odd years this little game of one-upmanship has been going on has any one of the storekeepers said, why don't I open up on or near the base? Yes, the rent is very expensive for a retail establishment on or near the base, but you would have the clientele of the men and women on the base. And notoriously, guys in the military need things to do. So they like to play board games. They like to play card games. They like to role play. They like to do things to get them out of that I might go to someplace and get shot mindset that is, the military. They like a break from just the work, 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 sleep, 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 drink on Sundays. That is the military. Game stores that are near military bases usually do relatively well because that is a lot of young people who have nothing to do with their what little income they have and need an escape. And a lot of them play board games, a lot of them play miniature games, a lot of them play card games, a lot of them role play. So any store that was smart enough to open near the base would have made hand over fist. But because these stores were so busy fighting amongst each other, they never said, hey, let's combine our forces and take advantage of that military base. So hopefully this sheds some light on the strange predicament I find myself in with a city that is basically, there's home games and there's definitely people gaming, but it's not like the kind of city that could support 6 game stores. So that is light. Hopefully this story has, entertained you. And if it hasn't entertained you, please subscribe to the vlog if you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet to help me hit 500 subs by January 1st, 2020. And support me through the PayPal because I have no income. I'll talk to you losers later.